Yes. I've got pictures, but I can't show them. There are some crazy people. Yes, they're all on Facebook. No, I'm just kidding. They're not there. My name's Troy Knight. I'm the managing director for Building 25, co-founder and co-conference chair for East Coast Game Conference. I just wanted to say a couple quick words. One, to say thank you to all of our attendees. Every year, so this is our 5th year. We have grown, thank you. So every year we have grown 20%. This year our total was 1,351. So that beat it by almost 300 from last year. So again, thank you for all the attendees. We had over 250 VIPs as well this year, so that almost grew by about 80. So thank you again for everybody coming to this conference again. This is what makes it happen. I wanted to also give a couple thanks to our sponsors here. Epic, great party last night. Is anybody in the house from Epic? Yes, definitely tell them thank you for the great party. Microsoft as well. Thank you again as a platinum sponsor. We have our gold sponsors, Building 25, Wake Tech, Answer Hub, IGDA, Insomniac. The PR sponsors, MMI, and the Bolle Group Company, sorry. Printing sponsors, DocuSource and Carolina Creation. I think Mark was selling off some of the shirts. If we put shirts for sale on Facebook, who would buy them? Okay. So who's your vote? Do you like the black ones or the red ones? Okay, both. All right, we can put them both up there. And again, the party sponsors, Epic, IGDA, Red Storm, and Unity. Again, thank you very much for... Because we really can't put on a lot of this without those sponsors. So again, thank you very much. There's not one person that does this. There's a huge crew of volunteers that help. So I definitely want a special thanks. Anyone you see in a red shirt, tell them the ECGC 2013. Please tell them thank you. We had over 100 volunteers this year. We've got one guy in the back raising his hand. I like it. Nice. Out of 100 volunteers, we had 40% were out of state, I think. So that's huge. Tom Gross, Cindy Foster, Feder Bonadires, Susan Myler, Nari Kaye, Adrian Diet, Link Hughes, Sean McCann, Susan Gold, Laura Angel, and I hope I didn't forget anybody. Dustin? That's what was in print, so. Again, thank you to all this. It's put a lot of hours that we've been working for months and months in order to put this on. Also with the co-chair, myself, Walter VandenBerghe, and Dustin Klingman as well. Also a special thanks to the Building 25 guys. We rebranded this year, so Raven, Martin, David, Erica, Kelly, Juan. Thank you again for all that. So, I'm going to pass it over to Kate Edwards, Executive Director of IGDA, for the introduction of the keynote.
This is low. Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Edwards. I'm the Executive Director of the IGDA. I'm very happy to be here. The IGDA is very happy to co-produce this event. ECGC, this is personally my first time at ECGC, so I think it's awesome. It's a great crowd here. So, but you don't want to hear me, we want to hear our keynote. So I am very pleased to introduce, I should say, our keynote speaker, Jason VandenBerghe, who is the creative director at Ubisoft. Jason has a 16-year career in the game industry, so he's been around quite a while. He's got a great deal of knowledge that he carries around in his head. He has to wear the hat to keep it in. And yeah, we've got a great character here and a great mentor, a great teacher, so we're very happy to hear from him. He's got a very important topic about how to be better designers and better developers. So I am very pleased to introduce Jason.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you very much. Right on. Okay, so can you hear me on this thing? Okay. Can you hear me in the back? All right, right on. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Also, my first time at the ECGC, so thank you for having me. Not my first time in Raleigh, not by a long shot. Red Storm's out here. You know who you are. Okay. I spent many a long week at Red Storm. Okay, so I have a couple questions for you guys to get started so I can get a kind of feel. So first of all, just for the purpose of curiosity, how many of y'all have any idea who in the hell I am? Wow, that is way more than I was expecting. Okay, okay, but good, there's lots of y'all that are still, okay, cool. How many folks in here are familiar with my work on the 5 domains, the 5 domains of play? Have you heard of it? No? Thank you very much. But okay, good, that was my plan. The reason I was asking is so that I know how much to explain as we go. Because I've been giving a series of talks at the GDC for the last 2 or 3 years on this topic, and this talk is sort of, it's like my summary. It's the end. This is the final chapter. You're getting the whole thing all rolled up into one thing. So the talk is acting like players. Before I launch into that, as Kate said, I'm a creative director. I've been working in this industry 16, 17 years. I've been at Ubisoft for about 5. What do I do at Ubisoft? If the game sucks, it's my fault. If it's good, it's the team's fault, right? That's the role of a CD, really. And I've had a lifelong interest in human psychology, and I have been struggling to find an application for it in games. And this is my answer to that. So, without further ado, acting like players. So, the big 5. About 3 years ago, I was having a conversation with my sister, who is studying psychology. She's a PhD psychology person, and we were talking about psychology, and she said, "Have you ever heard of the Big 5?" And I said, "The Big what?" So I had not heard of the Big 5. The Big 5, if you have never heard of it, is a model of human psychology that started around 1990 that is spread around worldwide. If you've done a job application and it's had a personality test in it recently, it was the Big 5. You've heard about the psychopath test, the one that they use to evaluate people on prison inmates for parole. That's the Big 5. The U.S. government uses it to evaluate your fit for roles and jobs that you're applying for across the board. That's the Big 5. Okay? It's one of the first models of psychology that has had that kind of far-reaching impact. It's pretty cool. That's all I'm going to talk about that. So look it up. It's neat. I was impressed, because most of the psychology models that we have don't have that kind of oomph behind it. They don't have that kind of science behind it. They don't have that kind of power behind it. In particular, I was impressed with the Big 5 because these are the 5 categories: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. By the end of the talk, you're going to be bored with this. Oh, just as a quick thing, how many people in this room think psychology is really cool? How many people are willing to admit that they think psychology is horseshit? Right on. So we've got a few. So y'all that had your hand up at the end, you're actually my target audience. Okay, the 10, 15 people, right? I'm trying to convince you guys. So I'd love to get a book report from you guys at the end. Love to get your assessment on how well I did, right? Because I'm preaching to the converted, that's cool, but I'm actually trying to find a level of application here that goes beyond that. Okay. So what was cool about the Big 5? Well, openness to experience is neat and everything. What I was really struck by was the fact that inside each of these domains were actually 6 subdomains of personality. So imagination, the idea is you take this test, and it tells you, oh, you have an imagination score of 70. And that means that your inner world is more interesting to you than your outer world. Or you got like a 30 or a 20, and it's, oh no, the outer world is more interesting to you than your inner world. It's that kind of stuff. Really simple, clear, clean, not vague like many other models. I was impressed by this. So I started doing this crazy freaking thing called research. I've never done this before. I am a game developer. I am not a scientist. But it turns out that if you can just sit down, you can just give someone a test, and then sit down and start to interview them. What I did is I gave people the Big 5 test, and then I asked them about their game preferences. What do you like? And I looked for correlations. It turns out that this is called qualitative research. Who knew? It was so easy. I just started, I didn't have to have a degree or anything. It was pretty cool, all right? So I started doing qualitative research, and I established, and this is the talk that I've been given at GDC, I established that there are correlations between your scores in the Big 5, if you were to take this test, and you can, it's free, it's online, your scores will predict your preferences in gameplay. So I created 5 domains of play. The 5 domain I didn't create. It's me translating other people's work. It's not actually, it's not actually an act of creation. But as an example, people who are open to experience, well, they like novelty in their games. And people who are closed to experience, they like sort of the same sort of thing over and over. That's sort of the idea. So establish that correlation. Cool. Neuroticism, just a quick note, I'm going to take this one off because the top 4 predict what you like. They predict what kind of game you're going to choose when you decide to play. The bottom one seems to predict why you'll stop if you're having a good time. You're playing a game, you get pissed off, you stop playing. That's what neuroticism is about. It's not the topic of this talk, so I'm going to pull that one out of there. So for now, we're going to talk about the 4 domains of play. And then I'll do another talk later. All right, so what have I been doing? So I did a bunch of more research on this, including quantitative studies. And what is a quantitative study? What we've been doing is we've been taking groups of students and then giving them the Big 5 test, and then giving them our test for your gameplay preferences, and then doing a bunch of secret super math that is beyond me, but that's why I have PhD friends. And we've established these are sort of initial baseline correlations. They're not great, but they do point out, if you know anything about science, which I didn't until I did this, that there are correlations. So that's cool. So what we've done is we've established that human beings have a set of motivations in life, and they take those motivations with them into their gameplay. Yeah? And it's the same set. You play for the same reasons that you live. Pretty cool. And we have evidence. I'm not the only one doing this research, but let's take a moment and just appreciate that. That's cool, because we've been arguing about that for a long time. Okay, so now this leads us, of course, to the next question. Worked on Far Cry 3. The producer on Far Cry 3, his name is Dan Hay. Dan's a big man. And he's like this. And he talks like this. When I was going to give my talk at GDC, the first one, I told him what I was doing, that preamble. I gave him some short version of all that crap I just said to you guys. And he's like, so what's it good for? I mean, I don't know what you mean, Dan. I mean, come on, man. Give me a break here. It's cool. Look. Okay, so here's the thing. Imagine this is like your game, right? Okay, so we got these 4 spectrums. So I can tell you that your game covers like these motivations, right? Your game is that band of motivations, and that's cool. So then I can take a player, right, and I can say, oh, if their test scores are like that, they're going to like your game, right? And if their test scores are like that, they're not going to like your game so much. So what? What's it good for? Dan's a big man. Okay. So, I decided I needed to get an answer to this because I have been asked this question, and this is for the skeptics in the room, right? What in the hell is this actually good for? Why do we actually need this? What is the point? We've been chasing this for a long time. We can see Zynga, right? And let's model all the player personality stuff, and then we'll squeeze them. Get all their money, right? Or not. What's it for? What's it for? So I spent the last year thinking about this problem. And I have come to an answer that I don't think you're going to like very much. Okay? This is a warning. And it's sort of the whole rest of the talk. But from what I can tell, there is only one value that human psychology and understanding human psychology has to game development that applies to every game, to every designer, and to every person who is making decisions about game content. And that is to help you develop accurate empathy. Develop accurate empathy. What do I mean by that? Let me show you. So we have this gamer. As gamers, when we get started, we are immersed in gamer culture, right? We read all about our gamers online, and our first relationship to other gamers, as gamers, tends to be this one. Ha ha! You like StarCraft. Pfft, dumb. What do you mean I love StarCraft? Yeah, but that's because you're stupid. Okay, that's pretty much where gamers are, right? That's where we sort of start. But we want to get into the industry. We want to work, we want to build games. And suddenly, we want to sell our game to this guy. We want this person to have fun, or gal, right? We want people to have fun with our game. So then we have to put on the suit and tie. Start to think seriously. What are they thinking? Why do they like this game that I hate? Why? It doesn't make any sense. And eventually, we transcend. And we become great designers. And we learn what is really going on inside the mind of our players. We learn to really understand why people are enjoying a game that we ourselves may not enjoy. Develop accurate empathy. That is what psychology is good for. It's not a checklist. It's not going to be a list of instructions, I hate to break it to you, just instantly make your game better, right? It requires you to learn to understand how other people tick. Now, one more point on this, and then I'm going to move into the system. So, why am I doing this? Why do I care? Pretend this is all gamers. Those are all of the gamers in the world. These are my players. These are the ones that are going to play my game, right? Because I'm going to be super rich. These are the gamers that I naturally understand with my motivations. These are the players who have or playing with motivations that are sort of like me. But here's the thing. I believe deeply in something that I call the game developer's covenant, the covenant of the entertainer. The covenant of the entertainer is this: you pay me money, you buy the ticket, you walk into the theater, you sit down, the curtain goes up. It is my obligation to make sure that you walk away with a smile on your face, having had a great time. And I want that to be true for everyone in the audience. All y'all, okay? That's the entertainer's covenant. But how do I do that with a game when I only understand those people? I want to understand these people, okay? I need to understand them, and I need a tool. I need to develop accurate empathy. And if you are a designer, if you are a game designer, you're making game design decisions about this, let me say that the other way, actually. If you're not a designer, if you're not actually making gameplay decisions, if you're a normal person, it's perfectly okay for you to walk around with a completely inaccurate view of other people. Right? That's fine. You can be like, women are like this, and men are like that, and they're all the same. It's fine. You can live your life. I would prefer that you didn't. Prick. But it's okay. You can go ahead and live your life that way. It's fine. If you're a designer, it is your professional obligation to overcome your personal bias, to examine the false ideas you have in your head about how human beings are wired and overcome them. That is your job. That's your job. And if you disagree with that statement, and if you really think, no, that's not true, get. Scram. Really, it's your role. You don't have the right to live your life dishonestly if you're entertaining people as a designer. You don't have the right. Okay. I'm cool. Putting that aside. Now, we need a tool. So, how do we do this? How do we overcome our personal bias? By the way, that was the talk, really. Now I'm going to give you a tool, but that was really my whole message. That was really my whole message. It boils down to learn how people think. Know thyself, etc. How are we going to do this? Let's get a little more specific. I'll give you some concrete tool. I want to give you a tool to make it easy, because it's hard work. Okay, so take a test. Take a personality test. Take the big 5. But really, you can take any personality test. Anyone that's scientifically validated, fine, right? As long as it's got science behind it. It's not like, you know, your dad's personality test. Don't take your dad's personality test. It's unless he's, you know, a researcher. You get these scores. Say these are your scores. Thank you. Heckler. Reverse them. Reverse those scores. Those are your empathy blind spots. Those are the motivations, human motivations, that you do not naturally understand. You don't have a natural way of comprehending the people with these motivations, unless you've spent time thinking about it yourself, right? But naturally, born in, you don't get those people. Your job, the homework, is to fill those gaps. Learn to understand those people. And psychology tests and structures are a map. They're a map to the human mind to show us where we need to study. I call this process, a particular form of this, player acting. Player acting. Learning to play games as though you were someone else. Okay. Player acting is something that I stumbled on years ago. And in doing this whole talk, I realized it was maybe something that you might find valuable. I'm going to tell you the story about how I came into all this stuff. How did I stumble into this? Years ago, way back in the frickin' dark ages, when I was making video games with sticks and, you know, rocks, I had my first encounter with the Bartle types. Who here is familiar with the Bartle types? You guys? Familiar with that? All the rest of y'all, take a picture of that. There's a link up there. Go look. Okay? Bartle types, good. This was one of the first pieces of work, of real science that was done about game motivation. I was interested in the Bartle types. Explorers, yeah, explorer. I like to explore. Achievement, yeah, I achieve. Socializers, killers. In the Bartle types, killers are players who like to ruin other people's games. Okay? They come and kill your character and then they teabag. And then do it again. And then do it again. And then do it again, right? And I was like, what? Who would do that? Yeah, right, yeah, show of hands. Who would do that? Right on, I love you guys. Now, 20 years ago, did not love you people, I'll tell you. Now I get it. It's pretty fun, actually. 4 fun keys. Nicole Lazaro did some groundbreaking work on the emotions thing. So again, show of hands, who's done the 4 fun keys? Who knows these? Yes, fewer. Great work, great work. The emotions of fun. What are the 4 primary emotions that we feel? And I was like, oh, okay, curiosity, yeah, I get that. Relaxation, sure. Fiero, yay. People, fun. People, fun. This was in 2001, and I was like, RPG, solo. People ruin my experience. You have killers if you play with other people. Other people can ruin your game if you let them into your game. Why would you want to play with other people? I don't get it. 8 Kinds of Fun, Marc LeBlanc. Another great model. We won't, you get it. Study this. Submission. Game is mindless pastime. Game is mindless pastime. Click, 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 click. Ah, click, 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 click. Yeah, okay, yes. I get it, but very few people did. So I'm confused about this, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I need to understand this stuff. How do I do it? How do I do it? How do I get this stuff? How do I get it into my head? At the time, I was working at a huge multinational corporation, completely different than the huge multinational corporation I work for now. And they had a thing called the IRC. The IRC was a gigantic library of video games, basically every important game that had been, or unimportant game, that had been released in the last 10 years. And I thought to myself, hey self, what if I were to play those games as though I were a killer or a people fun person or What if I was to just try it? What would happen? Okay, so being the anal retentive that I am, I did it in alphabetical order. I did every game in the library, and it took me 2.5 years. I'm going to try and boil that down for you to a slightly shorter process. But if you imagine doing this, if you imagine going to your local game store and starting at one end of the row and going all the way through and playing all of them, I can tell you, you're not going to have fun. Okay? That's not a pleasant experience. I had to invent rules. But here's the way it works. Pick an archetype, pretend to play that archetype for a single session, and then pick another archetype. 4 games a week. 1 hour of playtime required. I had to play for an hour. And boy, I gotta tell you, there were a few games where I was like, clock's ticking here, okay. I can do it, I can do it. A lot of games ship unfinished. I've made, I mean, for the record, I'm not mocking other people. My worst game is a 53, so. 1 hour playtime required. Every time you see something new, though, every time I would see a new thing, I had to play it for another hour. Every time I had an insight into what these players were like, I would have to start over. So what did I learn? Hey, World War II shooters are actually pretty good. Who knew? I was a Quake guy, right? Science fiction fantasy, man. Whoo! World War II? Pfft, come on, not so interesting. But after about the 9th, 10th, 35th World War II shooter I played, I started to realize, I started to recognize the guns. I started to recognize the locations. I started to recognize the battles. I had a sense of familiarity about a topic that I sadly had not studied deeply. And I started to understand that affinity, recognition, is cool. I get it. That's part of the real world. It's in my game. I like that. Neat. I didn't know that before. That was new. I played every Barbie game, all of them. And I'm going to tell you guys something. Horses are a big deal. Don't know if you know this, but they are. And they're pretty cool, actually. If I may say so. Many bad Barbie games, but actually a few really good ones. And, you know, the idea that the game is not throwing flame in your face and having, you know, huge enemies coming forward, that you need that for it to be fun, was new to me. Oh, Serenity can actually be fun. Cool. We know that today, but this was back in the dark ages, as I mentioned. Lastly, Sims is cool. Sims is great. I'm a story guy, but Sims blew me away, right? So I still play it. Okay. So that's player acting in a nutshell. And yes, I'm giving you homework. I know that sucks, but that's the deal. The idea here is you go and you find a game that people who are not like you like. Play a game you don't like and learn why the fans of that game like it. Yeah. Ew. Ugh. All right, I'm gonna try and make it easier. Which games? Yeah, okay. So you remember we have this map. Here's the thing. We have this cool map. Remember, we've correlated this. Personality test and game types. Right on. Fasten your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to get technical. Not really. But I am going to build a big chart. So hold on to your horses. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to construct for you a grid. This grid is going to have novelty, challenge, stimulation, and harmony. The 4 domains of play that we're focusing on. Okay? And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and build archetypes, characters that hopefully you know, that fit those personality types, and then games that those characters would play. And by the end, all you'll need is this one slide. You'll play all those games. Okay? Trust me? Not yet. And that's good, actually. You probably shouldn't. Okay, so let's go. So, first of all, in the big 5 I mentioned, there are 6 facets. per domain, yeah? At the very beginning, remember I was saying novelty, there's 6 facets per? That's 24 frickin' facets. That is way too much information. That's like just crazy land. So what I've done is I've pulled out the primary ones, the ones that in my interviews that are considered primary for gaming, okay? By asking this question. What features, if that game doesn't match your expectations, would cause you to put down the controller? Okay? Good example, fantasy versus realism. First of all, fantasy? 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 Awesome. Awesome. Look around. Realism? 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 Do you guys look around, see behind you? See the split there? A lot of fantasy people in the games industry. By the way, every one of these facets is a 50-50 split across humanity, and this is one of the most amazing things about the Big Five. It's a standard distribution curve, all of them. So the fact that 70% of you just rose your hand on fantasy and 30% of you just rose your hand on realism, we are not representative of the human race right now. I know that's probably a shock for you. Okay. But if you imagine a game, you're like, I want to play a fantasy, and then you start playing it, and it's not there. Like, oh, this is kind of a realistic game. People tend to put it down. But if you go artistic influence, like, oh, is it beautiful? If it's not as beautiful as you were hoping to, would you stop playing? Not many. Most won't. So that's the filter that I've used to generate these charts. So it turns out, by asking that question, there are 8. There are 8 primary motivations for gaming in the Big Five. 8. Kind of cool. It's actually super convenient. I'm over-exaggerating. There's actually 10. There's 4 in challenge, but for the purposes of a clean chart, I'm going to step aside science and say, look, science, you're right there, and now I'm interpreting. Which leads to bias, which is a problem, which is why I'm admitting that to you, so that you understand that I know and all that shit. Okay, so here they are. Realism versus fantasy, as I mentioned. Building versus exploring. I asked this question if I was to give you a choice between going over the next hill and exploring or what's over, around the corner, or staying in your local base, farm, homestead, whatever, and building that up, which would you do first? That's what that one is. Challenge, easy versus hard, duh. Work versus impulse, this is grinding, Get 300 of the things. And you either think that's awesome, or you're like, I'm not playing this game anymore. Group versus solo. Thrilling versus serene. Versus PvP versus team. And specifically this one means, PvP means not only did you win, somebody else lost. Versus team, where it's perfectly okay to have a victory, even if no one lost. It counts, because we all won. And context versus mechanics, okay? Do you play the game for the characters, the setting, the story, or do you really want to keep that? So those are the 8 primary domains of play, okay? So with 8, we have 2 per quadrant, and back in the dark ages, when I got started in this thing, I was a programmer. I started early on that way, and I've been a designer for far too long. I know what to do when I have 2 arrows like that. I make a graph. I graph them, is what I do. I make quadrants. So this is our map, ladies and gentlemen. This is our map. 4 quadrants of 4. Every person in this room is in all 4 of these domains. Okay, so you're up here, right, in each 4. And every game can be measured on all 4 as well. Cool so far? Right on? All right, let's do it. We're just going to do one at a time. So, novelty. Fantasy versus realism. Fantasy versus realism. So we already did the fantasy versus realism. Building and exploring. Quick question. So, explorers. Explorers first. Explorers first. Interesting. Builders. Builders. A little more even, but boy, there's a lot of exploration around here. Must be because of all the woods in Raleigh. Yeah? It's like going around. That one tends to be a little more balanced in the industry as a whole, but okay, that's interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do, who are these people? So what is a fantasy explorer? Who is a fantasy explorer? Well, that would be Alice in Wonderland. Alice, who is perfectly happy to go down the frickin' rabbit hole after a rabbit who's talking, who will drink anything she comes across, happy to eat anything she finds, really, new experiences, great. Alice. Our realism explorer, and the grounded, firm terra firma, Sherlock Holmes. They will find the truth, okay? Always exploring, right, but in the mind. Looking for the truth, the investigator. Our realism builder, Samwise Gamgee. Sam, who goes on the greatest adventure of all time and just wants to go home to his garden. And our fantasy builder, Tony Stark, who only builds imaginary things. Okay. So, what games do these people play? What games do they play? Well, Alice, as it turns out, is a big fan of Skyrim. Loves it. But she really does not play the storyline, the quest. This is like up over the mountains, looking around, find out. She's got a complete map, yeah? Sherlock Holmes, it may come as no surprise, is a big fan of Phoenix Wright. Objection! Samwise Gamgee, when he sits at home with his very high-power PC, likes to play Anno. It's just like my real life. You guys played this game? You played Anno? Anything fans? Have you recovered? Have you gotten your life back? Wow. And Tony Stark, big fan of StarCraft. StarCraft. Building. Yes, there's no, you explore in StarCraft for about a minute and a half, right? And then you're like, and now let's get to the building part. So, this is our map. Play these games as though you were these people. Got it? Player acting. Play these games as though you were these people. And try to imagine why they would enjoy them. Not for your reasons, for their reasons. All right. I'm going to put that there. 1 out of 4. Can you tell that I'm a achiever? Completionist? 100%er? Okay, challenge. Skilled play versus less skilled play. Notice that does not say suck. Okay? I've learned that if you ask people, do you suck at video games? Not very effective. The question here is, who plays on hard? Woo, man. Who plays on normal or easy, or will kind of let it go and a thing? Again, look around, people. You know why? Games industry full of aggressive, competitive people, that's why. We like hard things. And we forget that not everyone does. Okay, and then work play versus impulse play. Work play is grinding, as I mentioned. Get 300 of the things with no other reward. Just get 300 of the things. Okay. Versus impulse play, which is like, get 300 of the, I'm going to do something else, actually. So, grinders? Oh. Impulse players. Yeah, you know which ones we give the most shit about? We tend to mock the grinders, don't we? I wonder why. Okay, so who are our people? Skilled versus skilled work player. This is someone who is willing to work at the hardest problems. That is going to be Hermione Granger. Hermione, who always has the plan, who is the one they always go to when they need to get something done. Hermione, who can fantasize about what getting a B might be like someday, but who has never experienced it, so she doesn't actually know. Our work, less skilled player, so less skilled, but willing to keep working at it, just not very good at it, is Ron, of course. By the way, perseverer is not actually a word. I made that up. He does keep at it, though. Our less skilled player, impulse players. So these are people who play on easy and who really, when it gets hard, they kind of go, I'm going to go play something else, right? They're really kind of, right? Not interested in the grinding and accomplishment, right? So this is going to be the dude. Okay. The dude for whom getting out of his house in the morning is a major adventure, right? You can turn every event into a disaster. And then lastly, the impulse skilled player, the player who is very good at games, but who really doesn't want to work all that hard at it, right? That's, of course, Harry. So the talent is just kind of, oh yeah, I'm good at that game. I love that game. Why? Because I'm good at it. Do you play other ones? No. I actually had a slide where I had Hagrid in at the Dabbler, and it was all Harry Potter. That was pretty cool, but Hagrid's a bad one for the Dabbler. And besides, the dude, right? He's perfect. Okay. Oh, that was, by the way, it wasn't me. All of these archetypes are like, I poll all my friends. I've never found a designer who won't play this game with me. So who would be the best? Yeah. Okay, so what do these guys play? Hermione, as it turns out, is a big fan of Dark Souls. Yeah. 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 Hard. Grind hard. Win 100%. She's got the, you know, whew. Whereas Ron's more of a Farmville guy. By the way, I'm level 67 in Farmville. Anyone here beat me? Ooh, dang it! Oh, it was so close. Also an achiever and slightly competitive. So, the dude is a big fan of The Sims, and this is only with the all money cheat. He's never actually played the game. Starts it up, give me all the money. And then Harry, as it turns out, is just a big fan of the action-adventure genre, where he can just feel like a badass by going A, A, B, B, A, 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 B, 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 A. Learns it quickly. I make these games, so I'm not actually mocking people. Okay, so play these games like those people. Play these games like those people. Cool. You have collected 2 out of 4. Play those games as those people. Good. Next, you can see where we're going. So we're going to keep rolling here. Okay. Stimulation, extroversion, multiplayer versus solo. Multiplayer versus solo. Multiplayer? Show of hands, show of hands, show of hands. A little reluctant hands there. Solo players. Yeah, we're all a bunch of recluses, aren't we? Yep. Again, the source of why it took us a long time to even have multiplayer games in the first place, right? Excitement versus serenity. Boom, 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 boom. Excitement. Right? And serenity. Need to work on that one. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there might be an underserved market there. Just letting you guys know. Not that I really care, because I'm also making action games. So, I appreciate them. Yeah, it's tough. Okay, so, yeah, baby. Austin Powers is our multiplayer excitement player, right? He's always ready for a party, and there better be a lot of people there. Our excitement solo player, we know this guy. He's the lone wolf, Wolverine. Ready for, and all versions of that character, but he's really perfect for that, right? Loves to really have a great time, but is just forced into it. I have to. Solo Serenity player. Solo Serenity player is alone in a nice peaceful, that's going to be Yoda, who lives on his own planet. Excitement. Adventure. Come on, you can say it with me now. A Jedi, not these. Okay, sorry. Serenity multiplayer. This one is a little bit trickier. Finding games for this one, we'll get back to it. But a Serenity multiplayer wants calm and peace, but always there for the group. It's going to be Professor X. Yeah, the professor, who is, he'll go and he'll fight the battle if it must be, but it will be the last thing he does. pushing for peace as much as possible. Okay, the shepherd. So what games do these guys play? Austin Powers is, on one hand, big fan of Call of Duty. But that is not a complete picture of this particular category, because there's another game that Austin also spends a lot of time playing, and that is going to be Just Dance. Has anyone ever seen any person start playing Just Dance and have them not be smiling within 30 seconds? You hated it? Like, fuck, this is dumb, right? Very rare. You start moving, and you either stop or you start having a good time. Or stop. And for the Call of Duty stuff, we're specifically talking about multiplayer. He doesn't really care about the campaign so much. Whereas Wolverine, big fan of the solo campaign. Call of Duty 4, yeah? Big fan of that one, loves it, boom, 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 linear, loves it, perfect, on his own, can control his experience. Yoda loves him some Flower. Short, easy going. You guys played this game? You guys played Flower? Yeah. It's worth checking out, and it'll only take you about 5 minutes. So, it's really cool. It's cool. Multiplayer Serenity games, there are not many of these. Not many of these. Second Life, without the porn island, I guess. Animal Crossing, maybe. Maybe Animal Crossing. Really thin there, though, right? You're playing with your friends. He's really, this is the one where he's playing with other people in his town, right? And really having a good time. Okay. So, Journey comes up as the middle of there. Sometimes people ask, what about Journey for that? Journey's 2-player. It's not really group, right? So, cooperative. Okay, so, play those games like those people. Stimulation. Got it? 3 out of 4. Need to get like the gem, the Zelda, boom, 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 boom. Okay, Harmony, last one. Harmony. Team versus PvP, remember? On this end, we win, it's great. On this one, somebody else lost. Yes. Okay, so team players. Team players. Ooh, Ladia. PvP players. Also a Ladia there. We've been balanced in this one for most of the years in our industry. It's clearly competition is at the heart of gaming, so we've been well balanced. Context versus mechanics. On this side, we have why you are playing, and on this side, we have the game itself. It's really the definition. So, context, a little thinner. Mechanics, yes, tricky. And there's a lot of agreement, both, yeah. Tends to be that way. Okay. So, team context. Team. Why are we playing? It's important. We like this setting. And we're going to play for the team. That's going to be Mickey Mouse. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Who did that? That's awesome. Do you hear the Mickeys? They spread through. It's beautiful. Ah, okay. So you've been doing it your whole life. His last name is Mickey. So yeah, it's beautiful. So I'm specifically talking about the Mickey Mouse in Kingdom Hearts, by the way. Mickey the King. Yeah? Oh yeah, give it up for Mickey. Don't mess with his friends. He will mess you up. Context PvP. So really, it's important to gonna go and fight that one-on-one fight. Ensure you have a thing. But really, why we're fighting in that's gonna be the Jedi Knight. It's gonna be Qui-Gon Jinn. There are many Jedi Knights that I could have chosen for this one, but I chose Qui-Gon because he wears his hair in the same way that I do. So, Qui-Gon is the gray side of the Force. PvP mechanics. So I don't care why I'm killing you, I just want to kill you. Call me Snake. Snake Plissken, who, in order to get him to care about one other human being, the President of the United States, he had to have explosives planted in his neck, tied to that person's heartbeat, if you recall. And even then, he was like, yeah, still gonna screw you in the end. And then lastly, mechanics and team, so we're not really interested in the why. We're just going to get the job done. Guys, team, people. Nick Fury. Get the job done. The good soldier. Also a badass. Okay, so what games do they play? What games do they play? Mickey, this one is weird. Team, context. This took a long time, and I'm interested in other opinions. All these are work in progress. But I find that the people who fall in this quadrant tend to be interested in playing role-playing games. Large setting, in particular games where you are running a team of NPCs, you have a group of people with you, or you're playing with your friends, you care deeply. Pen and paper RPGs show up here a lot, right? So I put Planescape Torment up there because I'm old. Torment, give it up. Yeah, right on. You! Wow, you guys are old too. Or just very retro, which is also cool. I'm done with that. Great game. And then World of Warcraft if you're more into the team stuff. Okay, Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon is a big fan of EVE Online. Context, PvP, right? We're in this space, and it's so important to go and burn Jita. Yes, that is what we're doing. And then Snake, PvP killer, so we're doing one-on-one sort of deathmatch stuff. This is going to be Quake 3. Yes! Not team deathmatch. Classic deathmatch. Okay? There could be only one. And Nick Fury, as it turns out, for team and mechanics, so we're just playing mechanics, but it's all team play. Why, that's going to be League of Legends. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Play those games like those people. Play those games like those people. Okay. That's the chart. So that's as boiled down as I can do it, people. This is just, right? Here's the thing. Human psychology, we've been talking about human psychology this whole time. There are a lot of models that are like, there are 8 kinds of people, there are 4 kinds of people, there are 2 kinds of people. You know what? There's not. Okay? I hate to break it to you, the human mind does not owe you an oversimplification. Okay? You owe your species, as a designer, the work of learning to understand how the brain actually works. Okay? This is actually a gross oversimplification. Can I be clear about that? And already I have people who are like, can you just simplify it a little bit more? It still feels like work to me. Like, do you have a salary? That's why it's work. That's what I'm paying you for. Okay, so, what's it good for? Well, Dan, Far Cry producer guy. Oh, exactly. It's for teaching you about your empathy blind spots, okay? It's about showing you the parts of the human species that you do not naturally understand. This is a map to improve yourself, and yes, as a person. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Yes, as a person, yes. You will improve yourself as a person if you do this. That's not actually my goal. I'm trying to improve you as a designer. But in order to become a better designer, you have to become a better person. Sorry. People are like, the last talk at GDC, people are like, yeah, well, it's just kind of, you're just talking about know thyself, and it's just kind of a hippie message, man. And I'm like, gah! Would it still be a hippie message if I beat it into you with a stick, you know? Gah! Know thyself, damn it! Okay, so, these are your archetypes. These are the systems. So, I am this one. This is me. These are my scores, okay? I am the Tony Stark, Hermione Granger, Wolverine. That's me, okay? And when I took this test, I didn't preset, I didn't design it for this, right? I just built all the archetypes and went back and looked at my scores, and sure enough, that's how I play, man. That is how I play. I've always played that way. I constantly, I'm huge, anyway, all those games. Yes, that is how I play. So, here we are. Here we are. Developing accurate empathy. Back at the beginning. What I'm trying to do is convince you to develop accurate empathy. Play these games like these people. Play these games like these people. Sit down and pretend. Sit down and pretend. And I know it's going to be hard. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. You're like, I'm not an actor. I don't get it. I know. I didn't either at the beginning. Just start. You'll get better at it. You'll get better. Okay. What we've done here is we built a model of player motivation that includes 256 player types from 4 domains. Which is close enough to infinite to have a chance of expressing something about the human brain. It is for developing accurate empathy so that you can make great games. That's my talk. That's it. That's all I've got. So I think we have a couple of minutes. Are we doing questions? No, we're not. Okay, we're good. We're done. Thanks, guys, for coming. Log off. Arrivederci.